Welcome to the Life Beat podcast, a One Joshua Group production, providing access to information and experts to improve quality of life and health outcomes.
So, if you could save someone's life by spending a short period of time, if it were someone in your family, someone down the street, a neighbor, or even someone you didn't know, would you spend time to know that and to have that capacity? I'd say darn Skippy. Darn Skippy is a slang coined in the mid 2000s. It is black slang, but it's meant to serve as agreement and enthusiasm. Who's going to help us with that today to answer the darn Skippy question about being prepared is Dr. Katherine Y. Brown. Now, Dr. Brown is a international leader in CPR. We will talk about that in just a minute. And youth development. And she's founded CPR, Learning CPR America. That's Learn CPR America. And they call her the CPR Lady. Now, she does that because she brings CPR education into underserved, but I would also say unusual spaces. Dr. Brown, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Now, Dr. Brown, I said darn Skippy when I said that people would be interested in knowing how to save someone's life. And then I used three letters, CPR. Can you tell us what CPR is? And then we're going to circle back and talk about the training and the educational programs that Learn CPR America brings.
Absolutely. CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. When we think of cardio, we're referring to the heart, pulmonary to the lungs, and resuscitation to bring back. When someone's heart has stopped beating, nothing's happening. In essence, they are dead. CPR is that opportunity to help save a life. And so, by pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest, you are creating circulation to help circulate blood and oxygen to the brain and the other vital organs, including that heart that's not doing its job.
Mm-hmm. Now, in our introduction, I said that if you could take a small amount of time to learn skills that help you save people's lives, how long does CPR training take? And tell us about the training, the CPR training.
I love that question because anyone can learn CPR. Everyone should learn CPR. In fact, by the time we finish today, we will know how to do CPR just by talking about it. So I've done CPR in video formats for people. I've done a full-blown class. So sometimes I'll do what we call hands-only CPR. That I can teach you hands-only in 2 minutes, 2 minutes to teach you how to save a life. But then there are times where we do more hands-on, which could be an hour. And then there are opportunities to get the certification. But at its essence, the hands-only CPR is part of this movement that you hear us talking about, where we want people to become part of this nation of lifesavers, to know what to do.
So, Dr. Brown, why is it that more people, I'm not going to say CPR certified, I'll just say why more people have not been trained in CPR?
When I started teaching CPR, I was on the south side of Chicago. And this is like 87th Street. I'm talking about the true south side of Chicago. So here I am going to open up this freestanding CPR company. And I'm thinking, if I build it, they will come. Until they don't show up. Then I went on this crusade, and I'm answering your question, but I went on this crusade where I started standing on street corners with signs that said honk if you know CPR. If you don't, pull over and I'll teach you. And then I started knocking on people's doors. The door got slammed in my face so many times. People would say, "Oh, my neighbor will know what to do." Or if I went to churches, they would say, "Well, we have a nurse at the church." And I would say,
Mhm.
"Well, what if the nurse needs CPR?"
Mhm.
A lot of times people are afraid to help. They don't know that their actions will help. So we have to break the stigma.
Mhm.
There are certain things that we say that minimize people learning CPR. We say, "Oh, you might hurt them." And I always say, if a dead person says, "Ouch," after you did CPR, bravo, you did something right. I mean, these things.
Exactly.
And right. And so when we talk about certification versus hands only, you have to be able to afford a certification class. So when we
Mhm.
talk about that, that could take us into a whole different discussion because everyone will not get certified. But I can
Mhm.
take this skill of hands only CPR and it doesn't cost you anything except for the
Mhm.
time. And that's really the difference. So
Mhm.
we have to do our job and to help empower people. And I share my CPR story, me having to do CPR on my own mother. I share these
Mhm.
things to help people to understand that if it can happen to me after training over 300,000 people for free personally,
Mhm.
which I have done in CPR, it
Mhm.
can happen to anyone.
Mhm. So I'm glad that you addressed the apprehension that people have that
Mhm.
learning CPR has to cost money
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to cost you money. There are different levels of knowing CPR. Some
Mhm.
are without a cost to you, and
Mhm.
some are at a cost to you. Now, you mentioned the American Heart Association. So tell us about your involvement with the American Heart Association and learning, teaching, training, empowering, giving people capacity to be able to administer CPR.
As I shared, my mother is the one that got me involved with the AHA
Mhm.
when I was 16 years old. Now, in my mind, I still don't look a day over sweet 16. But it has been over 30 years, and I have been
Mhm.
involved with the AHA at pretty much almost every level, from local involvement to the National Diversity Leadership Committees. I'm the current chair of the Lay Responder CPR committee. I'm also a member of ILCOR, that's the International um, lens that's in the community for doing CPR. I
Mhm.
am, oh my goodness, Mr. Payne, so many different things
Mhm.
with the AHA because it's been a part of my life of advocacy. And the more things were happening, I wanted to be a part of that voice. One of the things I was a few years ago was so honored to have received at the Resuscitation Science Symposium the
Mhm.
CPR, actually the Champion Award, and also am the recipient of the AHA Martin E. Seaman Award.
Mhm.
But I will tell people, don't look at that. Look at all of the work that
Mhm.
led to those things. And me being involved, even at the state level, chairing committees. I
Mhm.
do things in the Southeast region for the American Heart Association as an advocacy chair. So there are a lot of things that I've done, but it has been a part of this fight
Mhm.
to get CPR in communities, all communities, but communities that look like me. And I'm
Mhm.
unapologetic about that fight and being the voice at the table. And even when I spoke at the scientific sessions, my whole goal is that everyone will not walk into your classroom to learn CPR, but you can take your classroom of CPR to
Mhm.
everyone. And the only thing that stands as a barrier is your willingness to stretch yourself.
Mhm.
So I will say that I'm the rubber band, I'm the squeaky wheel, I'm the person who stands on the corner with street signs. I go into homeless encampments. I go into biker bars, to churches, to housing projects. There's probably no place that I have not gone to teach CPR. And that was
Mhm.
because I was so impacted by the message. So for me, as a founder of now Learn CPR America, it used to be called Dr. Katherine and Associates CPR courses, DKNA. But I wanted to take the focus off of me and keep the focus on saving the life. But I utilized those resources as an instructor, and I've trained people at conferences for Divine Nines, leadership events. I believe actually that every conference that we're having right now should have
Mhm.
some type of CPR kickoff.
I
We
agree with you.
CPR to people.
I agree with you. I have my hand up. I definitely agree with you. Um, and we talked to a number of people. There are all of these biases and apprehensions, and I really want to just step out and say that you should not allow your fear to prevent you from saving your own life. First of all,
Yeah,
you understand how your body works, but being able to contribute to saving someone's life uh, is monumental.
yeah,
I've not had that experience, but simply by knowing CPR and being in the wrong place at the right time and being able to administer that, that is a feeling I'm sure that's once in a lifetime.
yeah.
And being able to begin with children, there's no age in learning CPR, is there?
If you can teach a child how to ride a bike,
Mm-hmm.
I can teach them CPR. If you
Mm-hmm.
can teach a child how to stop, drop, and roll and do all the things we teach them,
Mm-hmm.
I can teach them CPR. We have to normalize this. It has to be a part of everyone's conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
if that time comes, should it come, that they know what to do. They're only
Mm-hmm.
going to get older and stronger. And so the more that we keep it normal for them, then it makes a
Mhm,
difference. If I can share, I do believe that that was the greatest gift that my mother gave me
mhm,
because I knew what to do. And I will say the second time when she was at home, and I'll never forget that morning of November 5th, 2016. And the last thing she told me, she said, continue the work. I didn't
mhm,
understand what was happening. She was
mhm,
saying things to me like, I love you, Catherine. I didn't have to
mhm,
do it again. You were the only, I didn't have to have a second child because
mhm,
I had you. And we
mhm,
had this very in-depth conversation. Mr. Payne, she was a nurse. She knew
mhm,
exactly what was getting ready to happen. And
mhm,
so I remember when they woke me up and they said, she's not breathing, and I had to initiate CPR on my own mother. And I remember I called EMS and they said, do you know CPR? And it was this moment we tell people just to answer the questions, but I remember saying, I'm the freaking CPR lady. I know CPR. When are they going to get here? And I went through this cycle of doing all the things. And when they got there, I understood what was happening because she had bluish color. I knew what was
mhm,
happening. But I said, please put the AED pads. And I heard it
mhm,
and it said no shock advised. And I said, can
mhm,
we do it a second time? No shock advised. And right after that, as somebody who does this work every day, you have to know that it still hurts. I will
mhm,
say a couple of years later, I'm driving down the highway and I began to tear up. And I realized that she gave me the greatest gift.
mhm,
If the time came, the hands that were on her chest that morning of November
mhm,
5th were the hands that she trained. I gave her the best chance of
mhm,
survival because she taught me. That
mhm,
is the gift that I want to give to everybody
mhm,
because I don't want anybody to look back and say, what if, what if, what if? It was her time. It
mhm,
was her time, but it was also my time to do
mhm,
what she taught me to do. And so I thought to myself, my mother gave me the gift
mhm,
to save a life. And she gave me those words, continue
mhm,
the work. And so that is the gift that I will give to my community around the world. The world is my classroom. From the C suite to the city streets, I
mhm,
will continue the work in honor of the vow that I gave my mother that day to
mhm,
continue the work. And again, that's the gift that I want everyone to everyone should have that moment to know that I
mhm,
did everything right and that was the
mhm.
right thing to do.
So Dr. Catherine Brown of Learn CPR America is sharing with us her personal story about knowing what to do when and the gifts that we can give just by taking a small amount of time away from what we do every day to be able to extend a gift and give it to someone else. Dr. Brown, you mentioned, and congratulations, first of all, for all the work you've done through and with American Heart Association. And I also have to thank you because you and I talked about when during your mother's passing, and that. So I understand and certainly appreciate it. And thank you for sharing that with us as well. Um, I ask about children, and you mentioned AEDs. We know that there are so many cardiac events where children, young teenagers are involved on the sports fields and in other places, and you mentioned AEDs. Tell us about AEDs, what AED, the acronym stands for, and the involvement in that, and your involvement in that, in helping to save people's lives.
So you actually bring two separate questions.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is traditional CPR. So when we say hands only CPR, we're only talking about hands only CPR for teenagers and adults that suddenly collapse because they have about 7 minutes of oxygen in that bloodstream. That's who hands only CPR is for. For what we would call traditional CPR or CPR with chest compressions and rescue breaths, if you're trained to do that on teens and adults and you're willing to, we give a green light. But for infants and children, they generally go into cardiac arrest after some type of respiratory or breathing issue. That is why the rescue breaths matter with them. So they need those 30 chest compressions followed by 2 rescue breaths. So that's going to be different. So I want to make sure that people understand that. And if they're really looking for that type of class, they can reach out to me. And if I'm not in their area, I can always be, but I can also recommend them to other people because that's a different skill set that we always want to talk about differently. When we talk about the AED, automated external defibrillator, that is a small device, sometimes a little bit smaller or about the size of a laptop. And it has a whole system that can help to deliver a shock. If I were to explain it into layman's terms, I would say think of an AED like your GPS, right? The AED is your guide. You turn it on, you apply the pads to the chest. There are going to be pictures on the device and on the pads that show you exactly where to place it. And then you're going to follow the voice prompts. The AED will analyze once it's applied, but it will only give a shock if a shock is needed. And that's very important. So it's automated external defibrillator means it is trying to stop a fibrillation.
Mm-hmm.
So if the heart is here, which is nothing, which we would call asystole,
Mm-hmm.
it will not deliver a shock because there is no shockable rhythm. So that's very important to, if the AED is available, you need to get the AED, you want to turn it on, you want to apply the pads as shown on the device, and you want to listen to the voice prompts and follow the voice prompts. But your number one step is always to call for help. Because if you don't call for help, help is never coming. But you want to call 911 and you're activating that chain of survival. And then you get that automated external defibrillator. And remember, don't be afraid of it. It's just like a GPS. You follow the GPS in your car, you can follow the GPS of an AED because it will walk you through everything that you need. And if it says no shock advised, it will say, if needed, continue CPR. And then you would go back to the hands only CPR. We didn't say this, but I do want to make sure I clarify because people say, when do I stop? You want to stop when help gets there and they take over because you transfer care, or if that person shows signs of life. Other than that, I need you to keep pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest 2 inches deep, and you're going to keep your elbows tight and locked, and you're going to keep pushing. And we do a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute.
Well, so now you bring us to knowing and not knowing. And thank you for giving us that knowledge. We're a lot better off just because we've heard the discussion. Um, can you share with us some of the myths and misconceptions about knowing CPR and administering CPR?
So part of the myths are that I always get is you think that you're going to hurt the person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe in having candid conversations and saying death plus death equals death. Death
Mm-hmm.
plus CPR gives people a chance at survival. And I have to say it in that way so people understand you cannot kill a dead person. Without CPR, I can guarantee you that nothing will happen. With CPR, you give them a chance at survival. The other question or myth is that I don't know CPR, I haven't taken a formal class, so I shouldn't do anything at all. Hands only CPR is proven to work. Anyone that's watching this podcast and sharing it with other people, using the information that we've talked about already, can hear and be able to do it. And so, again, thinking that you need to be certified, that you need a formalized training, no. We have apps. There are EMS can talk you through CPR. So the point is that we want you to do something. And the third one I believe is very important to highlight is the reality that women are less likely to receive CPR than men because people feel that they're going to hurt a woman. And that's a huge myth and misconception. And I tell people this jokingly, Mr. Payne. I don't know how transparent I can be, but if you will
Very
indulge.
transparent.
Oh, very good, very good, very good. So listen, I've had 4 children, Mr. Payne. 4.
Mm-hmm.
30, he's a nurse. 25, third-year med student. 24, doing well, leading our nonprofit, and 16, who's a senior in high school. So I breastfed all 4 of my children. And this is a very transparent example that I give only to you, Mr. Payne. Stay with me. We tell people to look for the nipple line.
Mm-hmm.
It might not even live in the same place anymore
Right.
because I nursed my babies. So don't penalize me because I have these. Just look at
Mm-hmm.
the center of my chest. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
myth. We have to desexualize the aspect of being a woman because you're penalizing me because of this. He's like, oh, well, look for her nipple. Why are you down here? You don't even need to be here. I need you to be right here in the center of the chest because they're not up here. They might be a little bit, I'm holding steady, but they might not be where they used to be at, but I'm yet holding steady. Dear podcast, Dr. Katherine is yet holding steady. It's an example. But the point is, we have to have that conversation
Station.
because I talk
Mm-hmm.
to many men who say, oh, I wouldn't want to do that, particularly when I'm in my
Mm-hmm.
faith-based institutions and my corporate settings. They tell me I'm not going to do that to a woman. I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to be sued. I don't want to touch her body. What I am trying to help people to understand is that is a myth. She is a life. She has a family. She deserves to be helped. Just like if you would want some to help save your life, you need to
Mm-hmm.
also help save the life. And so we don't have these raw conversations. And I
Mm-hmm.
suppose that's what makes me different is because I will
Mm-hmm.
have the raw conversation with you if it helps you to help
Mm-hmm.
save a life. And the other one, and this would probably be the fourth one, is that people say, I don't want to be sued. And so we also must be aware of the Good Samaritan Act. Unless you are willfully and wantingly negligent, you are covered under that. Now, preface to please check your individual laws in your
Mm-hmm.
community for clarification, but you should be aware of that Good Samaritan Act. So those are probably some of the top ones that I
Mm-hmm.
receive in terms of questions that, will I hurt them? Can I make the
Mm-hmm.
the situation can I make the situation worse? And so we have to have conversations.
So, Dr. Brown, we appreciate that. I think desensitizing is what information and knowledge do.
Yes.
It is important that we're able to have a reality check. A dead person is not going to care whether or not what line you're looking at. They just don't want it to be flat. So
That's
we
it.
want to make sure that there's some rhythm in that. So I think that
Yes.
they would appreciate that over anything. So tell us, now that we've spent this last few minutes talking about um, the kind of resuscitation that brings people back to life, the resources, both hands and external, that can again restore life to someone, or at least help to restore life to someone. What would you want us to remember about this discussion? That's the first question. And the second question, because they will follow each other, what should we do? What would you like for us to remember? And what should we do to help save other people's lives around CPR?
I would want people to know this, that not doing anything is time wasted and time lost. Every second, every minute counts. You might break a rib. Broken ribs can heal, but death
Mm,
is permanent.
mm,
With hands only CPR, we can double and triple the survival rates. And everyone deserves a chance to have life, to spend time with that grandchild, birthday, all of the life events, they deserve that. I believe it's time for us to sound the alarms for CPR education and not put it on the back burner, to introduce it into every opportunity. I've been known to interrupt people's family reunions, random strangers. I interrupt basketball games of people who I don't know at parks. We have to be disruptive because a
mm,
cardiac arrest doesn't say, hello, I'll be there at 12 p.m., be waiting for me. It happens in people who look completely healthy sometimes.
mhm,
So we have to sound the alarm and push this. This is the time. The time is now. Now more than ever, we need more people. More than 350,000 cardiac arrests happen outside. I said outside, not in the hospital, outside
mhm,
of the hospital every year. And only 10% of that number is going to survive. My point is very clear. I've said it 3 times. Sound the alarm for CPR. Introduce it. Get innovative. You have to reimagine the possibilities. I go to sporting events. I go to every disruptive place that you can think of to teach CPR because I need people to know that you have to stay ready. You
mhm,
don't want to be reactive. You need to be proactive with the training. So if a young person can learn CPR, they should. If an older person, the oldest I've taught is 100 years old. First time teaching CPR, I was in a church. It was her very first time. Now, if she can still learn CPR at the age of 100, the young age, anyone can learn. And I have babies and I put little teddy bears or mannequins in front of them. I start when they're 2 years old. No, they don't understand it fully, but I
mhm,
am taking away, it's getting introduced them. And by the time they turn 5, guess what?
mhm,
If you can teach your child how to use an iPad and a cell
mhm,
phone at the age of 3, I think you
mhm,
should send them to me for CPR. And so the reality is that this is real. And so we need to understand, I'm not asking you to do a lot. I'm just asking you to call 911, push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives, and share that message with someone else. And so that is the call to action. That is what I'm trying to do. And so I want people to contact me, and to be
mhm,
honest with you, because that's the mission that I'm on. I was doing it was called Courageous Conversations. It was an internal podcast for every employee of the American Heart Association. And I was a
mhm,
guest speaker on it. And I talked about you need people like me to be a disruptor because I am that community person who is
mhm,
going to take it. And so that's what we need to do. We need to introduce it every conference. I don't understand why it's not there. I simply don't. I go into barbershops. I go into beauty salons. When people have hair weave on sale, I go and stand outside the beauty shop because you're going to get in line to get that hair weave. I'm going to be right
Mhm.
there to teach you CPR. If they're giving out food baskets, I'm going to show up and be there to teach CPR. While you're waiting for that food basket, I can teach
Mhm.
you CPR. You see, the time is now
Mhm.
to learn CPR. We don't get a second chance to help save that life if we don't help save that life.
Mhm.
That is the call to action today. Learn CPR and share this message with everyone. And of course, I'm Dr. Katherine White Brown, and I approve that message.
So, Dr. Catherine Y. Brown, where can we reach you? Give us some contact information so we can help respond to this call for action.
All right, so I definitely want you all to answer that call to action. You can reach me at learncpramerica@gmail.com. That's learncpramerica@gmail.com. I also share my personal email as well with people, which is just my full name, the Dr. Katherine Y. Brown at gmail.com. And on social media, hashtag Learn CPR America. It's just at Learn CPR America or hashtag my name, and you will find it there. So my Instagram is just at Dr. Katherine Y. Brown and at Learn CPR America. And it is the same across the platforms. And so I definitely want to connect with people and connect with families because I even take CPR into the home. I take it everywhere that
Mhm.
you need. And of course, they can reach out to you, Mr. Payne, because you know how to get me.
Well, we thank you, Dr. Brown, and we thank each of you for joining us on our LifeBeat podcast series, both in audio and video format. And remember to be kind to yourself and to be kind to others.
We would love to hear from you. Send your listener letters, questions, and topic requests to media@the1jg.com. LifeBeat, the podcast, is sponsored by One Joshua Group, your strategic source for engagement to improve life through better health, education, and information. To learn more, visit us at the1jg.com or follow our work on social media using hashtag 1JGCollabs. One Joshua Group, advancing access to healthcare and education by joining what you know with what we've learned.